Without a doubt, dishes with tomatoes or tomato-based are universally adored. Pizza, pasta, tomato soup, chili, and the list goes on. However, there is a common hiccup when it comes to using fresh or canned tomatoes to make sauce. It often turns out too watery and the flavor isn't as robust as one would desire. But what if I told you that this little thing could not only elevate your tomato sauce dishes, but also significantly speed up your cooking process? Imagine being able to whip up delectable meals post-work without having to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. Hi everyone, this is Yegor, and today we are about to unveil the secret to a perfect, quick and rich tomato sauce. Let's dive right in. Tomato-based dishes have a unique appeal. The tanginess and sweet aroma of tomatoes can turn simple ingredients into a culinary masterpiece. Whether it's a classic spaghetti, a comforting bowl of tomato soup, or a vibrant pizza, the rich tomato sauce binds all the flavors together, making each bite a delightful experience. However, achieving that perfect consistency and depth of flavor can be a bit of a challenge. When using fresh or canned tomatoes, the sauce tends to be watery, requiring a longer cooking time to reach the desired thickness. And the taste, it often lacks the rich tomato essence we all crave. Some might resort to store-bought tomato sauces. While convenient, they often fall short in flavor and freshness, not to mention the unwanted additives and preservatives. But here is the game changer: tomato paste, a concentrated burst of tomato goodness capable of turning your sauce into a thick, flavorful base in a fraction of the time it takes with fresh or canned tomatoes. With tomato paste, not only do you cut down the cooking time substantially, but you also get a sauce with a richer, more robust flavor. The consistency is just right, allowing for that perfect clinch to your pasta, that ideal spread on your pizza, and that comforting thickness in your soup or chili. Now, a bit of a science. Tomatoes are incredibly versatile. They can be turned into various products, each with its own unique characteristics and applications. And today we will explore 4 primary tomato products: tomato juice, tomato sauce, tomato puree, and tomato paste. First up, tomato juice. It is the lightest and most liquid of the 4. It is great for drinks or base for soups, but lacks that thickness needed for hearty sauces. Then we have tomato sauce, a bit thicker with some more body. It is a common base for many dishes, but can still be on the runny side, often requiring a longer cook time to thicken up. Tomato puree is thicker still, with a deeper flavor. It's great for adding substance to stews and sauces, acting as a midway point between sauce and paste. And finally, the most concentrated form, tomato paste. With the most intense tomato flavor and thick consistency, it is a fantastic shortcut for rich, hearty sauce and a variety of dishes. The taste, texture and usability vary greatly among these products, and while they each have their place in the kitchen, tomato paste stands out for its ability to instantly thicken and enrich your tomato-based dishes. Having homemade tomato paste ready to use can be very convenient. It allows you to have a base for many different sauce variations at your fingertips. And since the tomato paste is already concentrated and reduced, you skip the time it would take to cook down fresh or canned tomatoes to a desired sauce consistency. This can significantly speed up the sauce making process. Now, let's get to tomato paste preparation. No matter where are you on this planet, if you're anything like me, the ripening tomatoes have probably enticed you into prepping for the winter. A nostalgic gesture towards childhood. And I remember how every year my parents, brother and I would engage in winter preparations, making juices, compotes, jams and of course pickled tomatoes. But this time I have a keen craving for tomato paste. Tomato paste has been a cornerstone in many culinary traditions for centuries. The methods of making it have evolved, but the essence remains the same: concentrating the flavors of ripe tomatoes into a thick paste. The traditional method involves spreading out a tomato puree in the sun to dry, a process that could take several days. Modern methods offer quick results with similar if not better outcomes. One common method uses a food mill or sieve to remove seeds and skins, concentrating the flavor without the bitterness. Another method blends the tomatoes, then simmers the puree to evaporate the water on stovetop or in the oven. And for those who adore the set and forget convenience, a slow cooker works wonders. Simply blend or mill the tomatoes, pour the puree into the slow cooker and let it simmer on low for 6 to 8 hours, or until it reaches a rich paste-like consistency. But here is my gripe with this method. Look at the texture. All the seeds and skin remain. I truly want my tomato paste with a silky, smooth consistency, not with residues. So while it might work for some, it is just not my preferred way to achieve the true tomato paste. To sum it up, the main goal is to reduce water content to achieve that thick consistency. Straining to remove seeds and peel is optional, but it can significantly enhance the texture and flavor of the paste. Seeds and peel can contribute to a a gritty or chunky texture and can add a bitter taste. In the traditional or authentic preparation for tomato paste, achieving a smooth, rich and highly flavorful result is often the goal, and removing seeds and peel is a step towards that. But what about tomatoes? Various tomatoes can be used, but plum or Roma tomatoes are often preferred due to their lower water content and sweet flavor. But today I'm going to use all tomatoes from my garden, even cherry tomatoes, cause you know, organic, no pesticides, all that stuff. The process is a bit lengthy but worth every moment. Ensure the tomatoes are well washed to get rid of any dirt or debris. If your tomatoes are ripe and juicy, especially like mine from the garden, which practically squish at a touch, cutting them into halves would do. However, if they are slightly firm, like some store-bought plum tomatoes I have encountered, it is better to cut them smaller. The tinier pieces will cook down faster. You can even scoop out the seeds and any excess juice before transferring to a pot. For plum tomatoes, a handy trick is to pierce the bottom with a knife and squeeze out all the juice and seeds. This not only speeds up the reduction process, but also makes the later seed removing stage easier. Once prepped, transfer these tomatoes into a large pot, setting it on a medium-low heat. Let the tomatoes simmer, giving them a gentle stir occasionally, until they soften and begin to break down, which should take around 30 to 40 minutes. Now, onto the exciting part. Set up a food meal fitted with a fine disc over a large bowl. Working in batches if necessary, ladle the cooked tomatoes into the food meal, turning the handle to separate the smooth pulp from the seeds and skin, which you can discard or compost. Primarily, we will use the oven method, which starts by transferring the smooth tomato pulp onto a large baking sheet or an oven-safe dish. Slide it into a preheated oven at 300F or 150C and let it bake. Remember to stir every 30 minutes until the pulp reaches a paste consistency, which should take 2 to 3 hours. This method is superior as it not only yields a richer flavor and texture, but also ensures a more consistent and controlled evaporation of the excess water. The steady heat of the oven embodies a traditional essence of tomato paste making and evokes a depth of flavor that is unparalleled. In the end, I made 2 batches, one with garden tomatoes and the other solely with plum tomatoes. The second batch was easier and quicker. Less water meant faster evaporation, fewer seeds and so on. And as you can see, with less time in the oven, the consistency is already thicker. Once your paste has reached the desired thickness, allow it to cool to room temperature before transferring it into jars. If you plan on using the paste within the week, a simple refrigeration will do. And there you have it, your very own homemade tomato paste, ready to enhance the flavors of your stews, sauces, soups and various other dishes. The journey from fresh tomato to rich, thick paste is indeed time-consuming, but the unmatched taste, texture and the sheer satisfaction of homemade goodness make every moment well spent. Now that we have our rich, flavorful tomato paste, let's dive into some delicious recipes. Alright, now onto a comforting pasta dish. Begin by sauteing garlic and onion, then toss in the tomato paste, letting it deepen in flavor. Add enough cream to create a slightly runny sauce that will coat the pasta generously. Fresh basil, half cherry tomatoes and a sprinkle of parmesan add richness. Transfer the slightly undercooked pasta into a baking bowl. Pour the sauce over it and give it a good stir. The sauce should be on the thinner side and slightly more than you might think necessary. Once well coated, add dollops of mozzarella, sprinkle some more parmesan and bake to perfection. The homemade tomato paste wraps each pasta strand in a rich, flavorful embrace, showcasing the undeniable magic of homemade ingredients. Just get home, grab the tomato paste and in 15 minutes dinner is ready. No need to crack open a whole can of tomato sauce, which is super convenient. This pasta is a comforting hug in a bowl, rewarding the effort put into making homemade tomato paste. The melted cheeses, the tomato and basil, it's simple, quick and delicious. A little prep ahead really pays off on busy nights. Now on to making pizza, with dough that has been proofing in the fridge for 2 days. First, whip up a sauce in a saute pan using our tomato paste. Simply warm the paste, add a touch of salt, oregano, a drizzle of olive oil and a bit of water to make it less thick. Spread the sauce on the pizza dough, lay basil leaves and generous amount of mozzarella, and into the oven it goes. Super quick, simple, tasty and made from homemade ingredients. Still have questions about the tomato paste? Keep watching, I have more surprises in store. The paste can be frozen and stored in the freezer for almost a year, which is incredible for whipping up instant culinary delights anytime. To make these handy tomato paste cubes, just spread the paste into ice cube trays. I'd recommend using silicone trays because they are easier to pop out and usually have larger compartments. Once you have filled the trays, stick them in the freezer. Once they are frozen solid, pop them out and store in a freezer bag. Just like that. You have got a stash of tomato paste ready to whip up a tasty dish in half an hour or even less. And the next dish I prepared took me just about 10 minutes or so. Begin by sauteing onion and garlic in olive oil. Keep a watchful eye to ensure they don't burn. Once translucent, add in some butter. This helps give the soup a rich, silky texture and deepens the flavor. Next, toss in your frozen tomato paste cubes. Before adding any broth, water or cream, let the cubes melt and fry the paste a bit. These steps enhances the flavor. When the oil takes on the hue of the tomato paste, you are ready to pour in the water. Stir until the paste cubes fully dissolve. Now, pour in the chicken broth. Season with dried oregano, salt, freshly ground pepper, and then stir in the cream. Adjust the soup's consistency and taste as needed. If it is too thick, dilute it a tad with water. To serve, drizzle a touch of cream on top, sprinkle with parmesan and garnish with few basil leaves. Tasting this soup just hit different. It's incredible that with a dollop of our homemade tomato paste, we whipped up such a brilliant dish in merely 15 minutes. And hey, that's with our frozen tomato paste, which is a game changer, saving tons of time compared to starting with fresh tomatoes. Alright, we have gone from making our own tomato paste to whipping up some seriously tasty dishes with it. It's amazing how this one homemade ingredient can really kick our meals up a notch, and on top of that, it is super convenient. Now you have got not just a killer tomato paste recipe, but also some cool ideas on how to use it. Watch my next video and dive deep in more fun in the kitchen. Happy cooking and catch you next time. Peace.